Welcome to Stamps Old World UK, the channel where we explore the fascinating stories behind the world's most historic postage stamps. Today, we are taking a deep journey into one of America's most iconic commemorative issues, the 1940 3-cent Pony Express 80th anniversary stamp. This beautifully engraved piece of postal history not only captures the spirit of the old American West, but also holds a modest yet special place in today's collector market. So, sit back, relax, and let's travel through time to uncover the history, art, and present-day value of this legendary stamp. The Pony Express was one of the most daring and ambitious communication ventures in American history. Established in April of 1860, it was designed to deliver mail across the vast stretch of land between St. Joseph, Missouri, and Sacramento, California, a distance of nearly 2,000 miles. Brave young riders, often teenagers, would race across plains, deserts, and mountain passes, switching horses every few miles at relay stations, determined to carry letters safely and swiftly. Though the service lasted only about 18 months before the telegraph rendered it obsolete, its legacy became immortal as a symbol of courage, determination, and adventure. 80 years later, in 1940, the United States Post Office Department decided to honor this incredible story by issuing a commemorative stamp. The Pony Express 80th Anniversary 3-cent stamp was released in April 1940 and immediately caught the eye of collectors and the general public alike. Printed in a deep reddish-brown shade, it features a bold and dramatic image of a rider galloping full speed, carrying the mail pouch across rugged terrain. In the background, you can see a relay station and the wide-open landscape that defined the western frontier. The top of the stamp proudly reads United States Postage, while below it commemorates Pony Express 80th Anniversary. The artwork perfectly captures the energy, speed, and bravery that the Pony Express represented. This stamp was printed by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing in Washington, D.C., using the rotary press method that was common for mid-20th century U.S. stamps. Over 46 million copies were produced, making it a widely distributed commemorative issue at the time. Because of that high production number, the Pony Express 3-cent stamp is not particularly rare today, but that doesn't diminish its importance or appeal. In fact, it's one of those pieces that every collector of American postal history should have in their album. It's also a great teaching stamp, representing a vivid period of U.S. expansion and ingenuity. Now, let's talk about what everyone wants to know, the market value of this stamp today. As with all collectibles, value depends heavily on condition, centering, and whether the stamp has been used or remains mint. For a standard used copy, which means a stamp that has gone through the mail and has a cancellation mark, the current value is quite low, usually between 1 cent and 50 cents in the general collector market. For a clean, well-centered mint hinged copy, meaning it still has original gum but has been mounted with a hinge, the price generally ranges from $1 to $3. However, if you own a mint, never hinged example with full original gum, excellent color, and perfect centering, the value can be significantly higher. In 2025, a high-grade mint never-hinged Pony Express 3-cent stamp can bring anywhere from $300 to $800, depending on grading, certification, and presentation. Plate blocks, first-day covers, or specially canceled varieties can sometimes sell for even more, usually in the $400 to $1,000 range if the presentation is exceptional. While that might not seem like a fortune, it's important to remember that stamps like this carry far more than monetary value. They tell a story of innovation, progress, and communication that shaped entire nations. The Pony Express stamp connects us to a time when delivering a letter across the country required courage, coordination, and sheer human determination. Holding one of these stamps in your hand is like holding a small, tangible piece of that story, a moment frozen in time. Another factor that affects this stamp's worth is its popularity among thematic collectors. Western Americana and transportation themes are among the most collected subjects in philately. The Pony Express rider, depicted in full gallop, symbolizes freedom and adventure, qualities that have timeless appeal. Because of that, this issue remains in constant demand, even if it's not particularly rare. For many collectors, it represents the golden age of American commemorative stamp design, when engraving was still done by hand and every line carried artistic precision. Now, if you are looking to buy or sell this stamp, here are a few tips. Always inspect the centering carefully. Stamps that are perfectly centered are more desirable and fetch higher prices. Check the gum on the back if it's mint. Stamps that have original, undisturbed gum are considered never hinged and are the most valuable. Avoid examples with tears, thins, creases, or heavy cancellations, as these defects reduce value dramatically. When selling, try to present your stamp in a clean mount or protective sleeve, and if possible, use a clear image that shows both the front and back. Buyers are far more likely to pay a fair price when they can see the quality clearly. Now, you might be wondering, is the Pony Express 3-cent stamp a good investment? The answer is that it's not an investment piece in the traditional sense, since millions were printed and it's relatively easy to find. However, as part of a broader U.S. commemorative collection, it holds steady sentimental and educational value. For new collectors, it's a perfect starting point, affordable, historically rich, and visually stunning. For experienced philatelists, it represents an essential commemorative from the golden era of U.S. stamp production. Let's not forget that stamps like this are windows into human history. In 1940, when this stamp was released, the world was entering a time of great uncertainty. Yet the United States Postal Service chose to celebrate something bold and optimistic: the Pony Express, a symbol of progress and connection. It reminded people that, even in hard times, communication and courage could carry a nation forward. That message still resonates today. So, to summarize, the Pony Express 80th Anniversary 3-cent stamp from 1940 remains a cherished collectible. With millions issued, it's widely available, but condition matters greatly. Typical used stamps are worth a few cents. Hinged mint stamps range around $1 to $3, and mint never hinged premium examples can be valued between $20 and $50 or more, depending on the grading and presentation. For plate blocks or beautifully preserved first-day covers, prices can reach up to $60 or beyond. While it might not make you rich, it's a small masterpiece that tells a story far greater than its price tag.
Next up, the 1918 United States 24-cent airmail stamp, featuring the Curtiss Jenny airplane. To stamp collectors everywhere, it's not just another issue. It's the stamp that gave birth to one of the greatest stories in philatelic history, the story of the inverted Jenny. This single design error turned an ordinary postage stamp into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece and remains one of the crown jewels of stamp collecting even today. Let's begin with the background. In 1918, air travel was in its infancy, and the United States was taking its first steps into airmail delivery. The Post Office Department wanted a special stamp to mark this bold new era. The design chosen featured the Curtiss JN-4 Jenny biplane, one of the most recognizable aircraft of World War I. The stamp was issued with a face value of 24 cents, a rate that covered postage for 1 ounce of airmail traveling from Washington, D.C. to New York and on to Philadelphia. It was printed in 2 colors, a carmine red frame and a blue center featuring the Jenny in flight. This 2-color printing required the paper to pass through the press twice, once for each color. And here is where history was made. During production at the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, a few sheets of the stamp were accidentally fed into the press upside down for the second printing. This mistake caused the blue airplane to appear inverted within the red frame, a dramatic and unmistakable printing error. The result was the legendary inverted Jenny. Only 1 sheet of 100 error stamps was ever discovered, making it one of the rarest and most famous stamps in the world. The story of the discovery is almost as fascinating as the stamp itself. On May 14, 1918, just 1 day after the stamp was issued, a stamp collector named William T. Roby went to his local post office in Washington, D.C. and purchased a sheet of 100 of the new airmail stamps. To his astonishment, he noticed that the airplanes on his sheet were printed upside down. Realizing immediately that he had stumbled upon something extraordinary, he quickly bought the sheet and kept it hidden for safety. Within days, news of the discovery spread, and collectors and dealers across the country were in a frenzy to find another sheet like it. None ever appeared. Roby soon sold the sheet to a dealer for around $15,000, an enormous sum in 1918, and from there, the stamps were divided and sold individually to collectors around the world. Today, each individual inverted Jenny stamp is carefully traced and recorded. Many of them have been damaged, repaired, or lost over the past century, but surviving examples still command enormous prices whenever they appear at auction. Depending on condition, provenance, and centering, an authentic inverted Jenny can sell anywhere from $500,000 to over $2 million US. In 2021, one of the finest examples ever offered, in pristine condition and beautifully centered, sold for around $4.9 million, setting a record for a U.S. stamp. Even damaged or lightly hinged examples regularly bring six-figure sums. Now let's be clear, the stamp you see here, with the airplane flying upright, is the normal issue, not the error. The regular 1918 24-cent airmail Jenny stamp is still collectible and historically important, but it is not rare. Millions were printed, and many have survived in both mint and used condition. The standard version with the airplane correctly printed typically sells today for about $20 to $70 US if it's mint and well-centered. A used example with a clean cancellation might be worth $10 to $30, while a mint, never hinged example in perfect condition can bring $100 or more. Plate blocks, covers, or first-day flight covers may command a bit higher value depending on their historical appeal. What makes the Jenny stamp so special isn't just its rarity or price, but what it represents. It symbolizes the dawn of aviation, the excitement of discovery, and the meticulous beauty of early American stamp engraving. The two-color printing process used for the Jenny was innovative at the time, and the detailed artwork remains one of the finest examples of classic American philatelic design. Every line, every curve of the airplane was engraved by hand, a true work of miniature art. The red and blue color combination gives it a bold, patriotic appearance that captures the spirit of the United States in the early 20th century. For collectors, owning a 24-cent Jenny, even the normal version, is like owning a piece of aviation history. The stamp connects you directly to the birth of airmail service and to a time when sending a letter by plane was a thrilling innovation. It was the first time the United States had issued a special stamp for air delivery, and it marked the beginning of a new age in communication and transportation. When it comes to collecting this stamp today, condition is everything. As with all classic U.S. issues, the quality of centering, color, gum, and perforations determines much of its value. Stamps that are well-centered with strong color and full, undisturbed gum are always in high demand. Those with heavy cancellations, tears, fins, or faded ink are less desirable and worth considerably less. Authenticating the stamp is also important. There are many reproductions and forgeries of the inverted Jenny in circulation. True experts can identify genuine examples by examining the paper, ink, and specific printing details. Now, for those of you who collect stamps as a passion rather than an investment, the Jenny stamp still holds a powerful place in any album. It's a conversation piece, a story in itself that shows how even a small printing mistake can become an object of fascination for generations. For anyone who loves stamps, the inverted Jenny represents the ultimate dream find, a reminder that sometimes history's most valuable treasures are discovered in the most unexpected ways. So, to summarize, the 1918 24-cent Curtis Jenny stamp is a landmark of American postal history. The normal version is an affordable and essential classic, typically worth $20 to $70 US depending on quality, but the rare inverted Jenny error remains one of the most valuable and famous stamps in the entire world, worth anywhere from $500,000 to several million US today. Few collectibles have such a legendary reputation or such an enduring mystique.
Next up, the United States, the 1-cent Benjamin Franklin stamp. This small blue stamp has a story that spans more than a century, connecting directly to the birth of the U.S. postal system and to one of the most remarkable figures in American history, Benjamin Franklin, the nation's first Postmaster General. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned collector, this is a stamp that represents the very foundation of U.S. philately. Let's begin with the background. Benjamin Franklin was appointed the first Postmaster General of the United States in 1775, long before the first U.S. postage stamps were ever created. He revolutionized mail delivery in the colonies, introducing new systems to improve speed and reliability. So, when the United States issued its first postage stamps in 1847, it was only fitting that one of the two designs featured Franklin himself. That first issue, the 1847 1-cent Franklin, showed his portrait in profile and was printed in a deep blue shade. It became the first definitive issue to honor a statesman rather than a president, a fitting tribute to the man who helped create the very postal service that made stamps possible. The design of the Franklin 1-cent stamp changed many times throughout the 19th century, with each new issue reflecting advances in printing, engraving, and postal needs. The version you see here, a blue 1-cent Franklin, is one of several classic designs issued between the 1850s and the early 1900s. Each issue featured subtle differences in paper type, watermark, perforation, and color tone, making them fascinating to study and collect. Engraved in intricate detail, the stamp features Franklin's right-facing profile surrounded by an ornamental frame of complex lines and fine guilloche patterns. The words U.S. postage appear above and 1 cent below. Despite its small size, it is an exquisite work of art and craftsmanship. Now let's talk about what makes this stamp so significant. The Franklin 1-cent stamp was part of everyday life in the 19th and early 20th centuries, used on letters, newspapers, and official documents. Because it was issued over many years and in large quantities, countless varieties exist, some extremely common and others remarkably rare. Certain printings, especially early imperforate versions from the 1850s, or stamps with rare color shades or printing errors, can be worth thousands of dollars today. The key lies in identifying the exact type, issue date, and condition. For instance, the 1851 1-cent Franklin, printed in blue on imperforate paper, can be worth anywhere from $10 for a common example to over $2,000 for rare varieties or stamps in top condition with wide margins and clear impressions. The 1857 perforated 1-cent Franklin, with small differences in design known as types, can also be valuable depending on centering and condition. The 1861 issue, printed during the Civil War era, tends to be more common, typically valued between $5 and $50 depending on quality. But certain later issues, like the 1867 Z Grill, featuring a special embossed pattern pressed into the paper, are among the rarest U.S. stamps in existence. Only 2 examples of the 1-cent Z Grill Franklin are known, and each is valued in the range of $3 to $5 million US dollars, making it one of the most valuable stamps in the world. For the more familiar versions of the blue 1-cent Franklin, like those issued in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, market values are more modest. A well-centered mint example with original gum might sell for $20 to $100, while used examples can often be found for a few dollars, depending on cancellation and condition. However, collectors still treasure them because of their deep historical importance and the fine engraving that make each issue visually stunning. Even though millions were printed, finding a perfectly preserved, well-centered example can still be challenging, and that's where experienced collectors often focus their attention. Now, what determines the value of a Franklin stamp today? As always, several key factors come into play. The first is condition. Stamps that are fresh, clean, and well-centered bring the highest prices. The second is rarity. Certain printings, paper types, and color shades are much harder to find. The third is historical significance. Early issues, especially those printed before the Civil War, carry greater prestige among collectors. Finally, authenticity and certification are critical. Because Franklin stamps were issued over many decades and their differences are sometimes extremely subtle, professional grading and expertization can make a major difference in market value. It's fascinating to realize that the Franklin 1-cent stamp represents not just a piece of postal history, but also the story of American progress. Each reissue reflected new technology, new needs, and a growing nation. Through these stamps, we can trace the evolution of the U.S. postal system, from hand-carried letters in the 1840s to a modern nationwide network. And at the center of it all remains Benjamin Franklin, a man whose vision for communication helped shape the very idea of connection that stamps symbolize. For collectors, the Franklin stamp holds a special place. It's a perfect mix of history, beauty, and accessibility. Beginners can easily find affordable examples to start their U.S. Classics collection, while advanced philatelists can pursue the rare types, shades, and varieties that challenge even the most seasoned experts. Collecting Franklin issues teaches patience, precision, and appreciation for detail, all the qualities that make stamp collecting such a rewarding pursuit. In the market today, the Franklin 1-cent stamp remains a favorite at auctions and stamp shows around the world. Common issues sell for only a few dollars, making them perfect for education and display. Mint or rare type examples command hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on grade. And for the legendary 1868 Z Grill Franklin, the sky's the limit. With values reaching millions of dollars, it stands alongside the inverted Jenny as one of America's most prized philatelic treasures. So, to summarize, the 1-cent Benjamin Franklin stamp is far more than just a small piece of blue paper. It is a symbol of America's early postal system, a tribute to one of its founding fathers, and a cornerstone of U.S. stamp collecting. Its value can range from just a few dollars for common used examples to several thousand for early imperforate or rare type issues, and into the millions for the nearly mythical Z Grill. It is a stamp that bridges art, history, and human ingenuity, and every collector, no matter their experience level, should know its story.